Thank you for joining us on the Heroes Welcome podcast, your ultimate guide to understanding the incredible world of mental health. I am Maria Lacara Diego, licensed marriage and family therapist and a registered play therapist supervisor. And I am here today with my co-host.
And that's me, Liliana Bailon. I'm an LMFT and RPTS as well. And we're here with our guest, our special guest. Khara, how will you want to introduce yourself?
I am a serial entrepreneur. Let's see, licensed professional counselor here in Colorado, financial therapist, approved clinical supervisor, author of 8 books, soon to be 9. Where else could I go? But yes, those are the things.
You see how she let it slide, 8 books. I was like, that's right, baby. You name.
Yes, collecting all the letters and doing
Yes.
wonderful things.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't like to be bored. That's what I usually tell people when they hear all the things. So always a lot of irons in the fire.
I love that.
That's exactly how I know Khara, and that's exactly why I wanted we invited Khara to this podcast. So for everyone who's here, Khara has been focusing on amazing things, but the thing that I want everyone to know from this podcast, besides all the wonderful things that she's doing, is that she's focusing on helping us therapists talk and save and view money in a different way.
Thank
So
I'm trying.
Someone needs to do it.
Let's all take a deep breath. It's gonna be okay. Khara, where will you want to start talking to our listeners in regards to money in our field?
Yeah, I mean, I love the invitation to take a deep breath because, that is part playful and part legit. Of people go when we think about money. The running joke in financial therapy. There's about 100 of us now that are certified in the U.S., so it's a small subset of therapists. There are 2 home disciplines coming into that: mental health, of course, which is our folks, and then we've got financial planners on the other end of that. So fascinating, different kinds of brains showing up in the space. But with 100 of us, the running joke is that we'd rather talk about our sex lives than our money lives.
That's about right.
So when you're like, take a breath, right, it's because we go, and therapists are absolutely part of that camp, right? So when I started my journey to become a financial therapist, I had to do my own work. And what I learned is that 70% of mental health folks have avoidance with money. So if they're even listening to your podcast right now, this is progress because no one wants to think about it. No one wants to talk about it. And here we are talking about it, which I love.
Wow, 70%.
70%.
I mean, that feels right. That sounds accurate. I think, Liliana and I have talked before about how our programs woefully unprepare us for the real life aspects of our career and finances, right? We start in debt. Most of us trying even just through grad school, let alone internships and licensure processing. So yeah, the idea of talking about money feels very yuck, but it shouldn't, is what I'm hearing. It shouldn't feel yucky.
Yeah. I mean, if we continue to live in the yuck, for lack of a better way to put it, it causes us to have behaviors around money that don't serve us, right? So if I'm truly avoiding, I might have a behavior like not checking my bank accounts or not knowing how much I'm spending, not knowing how much I'm making. As a small business owner, which all private practice clinicians are, even though we don't have that training a lot of times or that mentality, we still have to know what's going on with our business to feel like we're doing a good job. Right before coming on with you both, I saw a report that came out. They surveyed a bunch of therapists in the area of the US, and it said 89% were making under $100,000 in their business after expenses, and 85 of them had over $100,000 in debt when it came to student loans. So just those numbers are hit to the heart for a lot of us. And if we're not working on our money story, which is what financial therapy is all about, we can't really model that for clients or hold that for clients when they're doing their own work around debt or shame or anxiety. So I really do believe we have to do this work first.
I love that money story. So what is it that you want to share? One, and just for everyone who's listening, we will make sure that you have Khara's information in the podcast so that you can reach out because she's doing groups and she's doing consultation. So again, she's a resource for all of you. But how can we start even becoming aware in regards to our money story?
Yeah. Well, the true therapist brain will love this because it's like we have to go backwards first. We got to go to our past, like so cliche therapy thing to say of like, let's go back in time. One of my favorite questions to ask people is, what is one of your earliest money memories? Like sitting in that and being like, okay, once I remember what that is it overall positive, neutral, or negative? This memory I have, did it shape something in how I believe money to be now? So the average person has 50 to 200 money beliefs, and money beliefs are on a spectrum, right? So like a spectrum of money is good, money is opportunity, money is freedom, to money is corrupt, money is evil, money changes people. And most of the work I do with therapists is, how do I get you to a place where you land neutral, which might sound like money is a tool, money is transactional. It's not about emotions, but for a lot of us, emotions are driving.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just thinking about the act of them up in supervision this week, the act of like following through with a no-show fee causes clinicians to spiral.
Yes, always. So common. It's either thinking about raising our rates or charging that no-show fee, and we just go, I can't do this. What if I lose a client? And I want to normalize that as like, that's human, and that's partly our money beliefs. It's this belief that I have to do good for other people and not expect money in return. So a term that I learned in my training was noble poverty. I want to see how that lands for you both. Noble poverty.
I think that's exactly the mentality where our mental health field, in a way, has captured what we do. For a long time, I became aware, and this was with a conversation with a colleague, and she said it. She made this reflection to me, which was, when our field started, it was mainly with white people who work at universities who were giving back. And now the majority of the people are people who are working to make a living and wants to give back, want to make a difference. So when we go to noble poverty, like, it is our field, and especially systems, I believe, and tell me, both of you, like what you think about. But when I think about my master's program, and I think about the way that they told me that this career that I was choosing was a noble career, was for me to serve a population and for me not to focus on money, was sustaining that idea.
Scarcity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so much there. I mean, this is prevalent in grad school. So sometimes when I just have people start their financial therapy work, they think about that. They have this aha moment of, oh, grad school said I'm not worth my salt if I don't do this for free, or have a sliding scale, or have a reduced rate, or how my professor might respond if I'm like, I'm going to charge 180 an hour right out of school, which like we all have some reactions to that, if I'm being honest, even now.
Yeah.
But like, there's something about that that's being reinforced, and it's like, you shouldn't be in it for the money. There's a belief for you. You shouldn't be in it for the money. And just watch what happens when people say, I believe you should earn a good living and can help people. Power of and. But there's so much there to unpack first.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're for many, many programs, especially where I'm at, we take interns. They are free internships, right? We have programs that refuse to allow sites to pay, right? So they are mandated to give 1,000 clinical hours for free. So I feel like they're setting us up from the beginning to undervalue, to feel gross about charging. And we're talking about grad students who don't have money, and most of them, if they have jobs, can't work full time while doing their internship.
Right, right. And so I've worked with a couple different institutions at this stage of my career, but in one in particular, they said the exact same thing, and they looked at students specifically. They were telling this to a student of color, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa! Like I had to like have a private conversation. But they looked at them and said, you're not allowed to work while you're in this program. You are a full-time student, and you're not allowed to work. And I pulled them aside and I was like, you cannot say that, one, because you're a program and you're not dictating their life, but two, many of these students have to work regardless of their background because of how expensive this program is. I mean, this program was like $75,000 a year, and they're like, you can't work. and you can't have a paid internship. So absolutely, I feel some goosebumps as I'm telling you that, both because I get fired up of like, that was not something I got to question when I was in grad school, but this youngest generation of therapists is, and I love it. I love that they're setting some boundaries around, this is my time, this is my worth, this is what I will and won't do. And a lot of them have to work or want to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it also feeds into, you know, just the abysmal pay that is offered even right out of grad school, right? I think that just forces, you just spent all this time and money to get this degree, and you are only worth, $28,000 for a year. Good
Yeah.
job.
But
You should be
yeah,
thankful, right? That's the message we keep getting. You should be thankful it's 28.
oh my
And I'm like,
gosh.
that doesn't cover bare minimums, let alone, my student loans to get into this position.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel grateful that when I was in grad school, I had a mentor that I went back to when I got a job offer and said, "Is this good?" I didn't even know what was good. Like I was like, "This is the amount. This is my first job in this field outside of an internship. Is this good?" And she's like, "They can do better."
Yeah.
And thank goodness she said that to me. Or I'd have just been like, "All right, this is what I get."
Yeah.
Then I got a job that had like 10,000 more a year, which was great. But like, no one said this is what you should expect or here's the range. But as a part-time faculty member now, my students are asking me that all the time. What should I expect to pay for supervision?
Mhm.
What should I expect to earn? How much can I make in private practice? Like they're asking these questions because they're curious and they're informed. And I think my generation's just like, all right, we're just supposed to go with the flow, i.e., noble poverty.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. I think we are all still suffering generational financial trauma.
there you go.
When you're talking about your, the money story and money memories, I can go all the way back to childhood, and pull up things going, oh yeah, that
Right?
that might be why I do this thing now, 40 years
Yes.
later.
Yep. Yeah. So like money beliefs is the first part of this equation. So like a lot of people, if they start financial therapy or start reading some of the self-help books or do their own work in any capacity, they tend to float back to the past first. Like it has this nice domino effect if people start there. Oftentimes though, therapists come in saying, I have QuickBooks, I have this system, but nothing's working for me. Or they'll say, I don't know where my money is. I hear that a lot. I don't know where my money is. I worked damn hard. I hope I can say damn on this.
Yeah.
I worked damn hard and
And
I don't know where my money is. And so that's the second bucket of financial therapy, which is like the money present, which is money practices. Like, what are we doing to get to know our numbers? How are we leaning in? But if I haven't done that emotional work in the past, to ask someone to look at their bank account or talk about numbers is super triggering and they spiral out, as you said earlier.
yeah.
So a lot of people come in having tried a strategy, but like a diet, it fails within 30 days because it's not sticking, it's not resonating. And if we get through that work, then we get to money future, which is usually like a money freedom kind of place.
Mhm.
What am I moving towards? What am I saving for? What makes this worthwhile? So think values based decision making. Like what's important to me? Is it just to save? No, it has to be something concrete or tangible or aligned with my values to make that feel worthwhile. And so therapists are all about that. We just have a little bit of work to do.
So for all of you who are listening again, because Carrie is a friend and a colleague, when she started like telling me about this, right? I went back to, oh yeah, I have anxiety about money. Growing up in Mexico, having the story of being a migrant. I love when you talk about and give the example of the person of color at the university, because for me that was exactly it too. So it's like all these things that come in and compile
Mm-hmm.
in regards to what is the belief that I have about money. Someone even brought this in regards to, are you always working hard because you're a migrant? Oh, that hit hard.
Mm-hmm.
First I was like, and then I was like, well, hold on. And then I had to go back and I was like, oh yeah, that's a story that we keep sharing between migrants, which is this is what we're here to do. And then when you go to school and then it gets compiled into this is your job, you should not charge. It's a gift. It's a novel career, right? And then we go into internship and that gets reinforced, telling us our worthiness. And then if we go
Mm-hmm.
to agency, this is your salary, but we're gonna be like vampires. We're gonna extract everything from you. And then to the point where either we get sick or we cannot sustain it. And then we move to private practice, but we don't have an MBA. Like no one talked to us in regards to how to be business owners. And then when you're a business owner, you're like, but I don't have accounting skills. Even if I have QuickBooks, like what does that mean? So not understanding that. But I love from the beginning when you started talking with our group about this, that you started talking about, well, what is your belief system? I hated that question the same way that I hated the book Profit First.
Yeah.
God, I despise that book. It gives me so much anxiety.
Mhm.
That I think we turned it into a book club. And even like that, we're like, um, and that's some of the books, right, that you have discussed before. But I love even today when we're talking about what is the money story, what is the belief systems that you have about it, what is the money practice, what are the values that you're focusing on, even if it's, I think you told me once, even if it's $5, Liliana, that you're putting away, that's it for me, by the way. Even if it's $5, even if you start here, and I was like, yeah, I can do $5. I guess I can skip Starbucks today. And that's a big ask for me, by the way. I can do that. So how can I automatically remove $5 to different accounts so that I can start with the idea of and seeing that it's feasible? And I think that's the next thing for me asking you, which is what is a tip that you can start besides going? And I truly encourage everyone who's listening to us to go to your groups, to go to these trainings because they're amazing. And anyone who I have access to, like I encourage them to go because I have seen the content of your stuff and it's just like right on point. But what is a tip that you would like to share with our listeners in regards to where can they start?
Yeah, I think this is a common question I get of like, this is a lot, like a lot of truth bombs that we just threw in here. And I have others, but we'll go to them some other time. The tip I think for a lot of people is make this visual, right? So if it's a values-based thing, like a lot of people want to say, I want to save more. I want to save that $5 a month for something. Make that visible. Is that now a named account on your banking system where you actually can nickname your accounts, which a lot of the big banks let you do?
Yeah.
So like, are you now spelling out this is for a life-changing trip somewhere? Is this for a family vacation? Is this for retirement? Please don't say retirement on your nickname, if I'm being honest. Like, that's not sexy. That's not engaging. Like, come up with something else. What will you do when you're retired? Spell that out. Like, you put a whole phrase in here.
Yeah.
But if you can name the account or name the envelope, however you're saving money, that makes it a gentle reminder of why you're working so hard. Like, oh, I'm putting this $5 that I could have had my Starbucks, I'm putting it over here, and here's my reminder as to why. If we don't have that visual, we don't follow through. So like continuing to have that heart connection of this is important to me, this is my future, this is what I want. So that name makes a big difference of like seeing it every time you log in or seeing it every time you put $5 in an envelope.
I love that. I love that because it does. It takes it this crazy, feels like philosophical. I can't really grab it and put my hands on it too. This is real. This is a real $5 that I'm putting for this real thing I'm going to do. And it helps the future planning because I think a lot, speak yourself and practitioners in my circle, I think a lot of us feel like we are living paycheck to paycheck, and then something happens and we get off course and we never quite get back, even if we had that $5, system in place. We kind of go back to that like scarcity mindset really easily. And I feel like we're almost like programmed with that as a default.
Yeah. So I have two more tips for you if you all can handle them. Because I'm like, there's so much we could say. So tip number 2 is self-compassion, right? Like as people are listening to this going, I have some work to do around money. 70% of us absolutely have work to do around money. It's an ongoing journey for a lot of us. It's like narratives around Christmas, if that's a holiday you celebrate, or vacations or retirement, all these things can be triggering. So self-compassion is important, as well as continuing to recognize that you're getting messages from your community and society at all times. So another truth bomb for listeners, if you grew up with Disney movies, you are more likely to have a negative narrative or belief about money, because think about who had the money in those movies. Who were they? People in power were evil.
The
People in
bad
power were
guys.
corrupt. Yes, they were the bad guys. So if you were raised on Disney movies, this blew my mind as an elder millennial or whatever the hell they call me now. If you were raised on these, you had messages constantly that told you that the people who had money were bad. The people who had money were corrupt. The people with money made bad choices. They could not be trusted. And you wonder why a lot of us don't want to hold on to money as mental health professionals, that we want to be good. We want to be seen as helpful. So now I can't hold on to money. I can't have wealth, because if I have wealth, I'm going to be like them. Boom.
Oh
I wish
my.
everyone can see Maria's face right now.
So when I learned that, I was like, oh,
If
yeah.
you've heard the other pieces, you know villains are my jam. And holy heck. Yeah, no, I need to go do a whole nother training on the messages in a whole different light. But yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that one is something people can sit with, unpack, do a training around. But like for me, that was another light bulb. The third tip specifically, because we're talking to therapists, and I just put a video together that's coming out a little later, but have a PTO account if you're in private practice. Like have a paid time off account for yourself. And a lot of us who've come from community mental health or agencies, like that was wrapped into our benefits. So we didn't really have to think about it. But to Liliana, your point of like, we don't have an MBA, so this doesn't come naturally. We need to have a PTO account for mental health days, for vacations, for when our kid gets sick if we have children. This was life-changing for me in my own burnout recovery, when I was like, oh, I can take the trip that I need to take for time off, and I can pay myself while I'm gone. Because that was the double whammy for so many of us of like, okay, not only am I trying to go on a trip that costs money, I don't have any income for the week or 4 days or however long I'm gone to pay. Like I don't have any income coming in. I don't see clients that week. But if I have money set aside for the trip on my personal life, and then I have this PTO account on the business side, now I'm paying myself to go. And that changes everything on this burnout recovery. So everyone, PTO account, that is your homework from this podcast episode.
Like from everything that you heard today, well, actually, there's a lot of things.
I know, it was a lot
The
I did.
PTO, yeah, especially, right? Because we're talking about how can we help with these beliefs so that we can empower you. And the PTO is a way to empower you, even if you're putting $5 a week, where you're choosing not to go to a fast food, where you're choosing not to get your coffee. You can get your coffee at home, where you can choose in like something else in order to put those $5 in different accounts, right? Whatever depending book you're reading, it may be 3-5 accounts that you have in order to designate, but $5, like we can do this. So it's how can we empower you? And I think that's why I love what you're doing, Khara, because you're changing the mindset. You are empowering us to take control of our financial destiny. And then also because most of us in our field, let's also name it, are females. And even if we're going to go from a Disney perspective or a feminist therapy perspective, like how we're going to empower each other in order to be financially savvy and be prepared for the unknown.
Yes. I mean, I think that's why, like, I know your listeners can't see your faces, but like, this is why when I say PTO account, we're like, why did I think of that? It like feels so rudimentary once it's named, but it didn't occur to us because to work for ourselves, so many of us don't even pay ourselves for the first couple of years. We're just trying to make ends meet. But like that empowerment can be, okay, I had a low client week this week, so I'm going to pay myself the difference of what I didn't make this week. Or, oh, it's a holiday week, it's spring break, people canceled, I need to cushion this. And now we're not taking on more clients or more obligations when we're burning out already. So it gives us this like flexibility to be healthier, which I think you're saying for like women, for therapists, for, you know, just humans in general, of like, this is a strategy. This is part of money practices, is the PTO account. So you've gotten some money healing with what was your first money memory. You've got some money practices, and money future can be go watch a Disney movie and never look at it the same. I don't know. It's something to all that.
I love that so much. But I think even just thinking about a financial future, right? Like, and you know, and Khara, this has been so lovely. I haven't met you previously, but I can tell you that you talk about this in such a way that it's doable. It is not scary. You know, you are able to speak in a way that I'm like, that makes sense. I love my CPA. He gets going and I'm just like, this is Greek. This is Greek. You want to talk
Yeah.
about your relationship with your mom? I'm much more comfortable with that. I don't understand. But talking with you, it's like, okay, yes, this is going to be scary and there is some work involved with it, but this is doable. And you're telling me that I can have a financial future that is different than my financial present.
Mhm.
So this is boom. I have so much homework, so much homework now.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that first impression. And this is why I'm called to work with therapists, right? When people are like, why did I niche down to therapists? Well, I was doing a lot for therapists in my other roles of professor and supervisor and consultant and trainer, but this felt like this is the emotional healing that needed to be done for our profession so that we don't burn out, so we don't have a health crisis, like all the things that I've lived in my own life, I wanted to do differently for other people. So I really appreciate hearing that feedback of this feels manageable, this feels less scary. And we want it to be, otherwise we're never going to change, we're never going to grow. So that self-compassion comes back in for our money future homework. Self-compassion.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and even just knowing that there are people like you out there, that is not even a widely known fact. I am blessed that Liliana keeps introducing me to all these fantastic people that she is connected to. But I can tell you here in New Mexico, that your role is a very new role for me to even
Yeah.
be introduced to.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it is, when people are like, okay, I need to do this work, where do I get it done? Like, we can work anywhere. So, like, financial therapy is not the same as mental health therapy. It looks more like a coaching model, even though I hate the word coaching, if I'm being honest to both of you. But, we're able to serve. So, I actually have wonderful therapists, clients all over the US doing this work. And Liliana's been mentioning groups. So, if people are like, what the heck's the group? We have a Momentum and Money group. It's a 6-week online group that fellow private practice therapists come together and they work on 10 financial therapy tools. They work on it experientially and then they get to take it back to client work if they want to. And it's just this beautiful community where people go, oh, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who had that thought. I'm not the only one with that belief. I'm not the only one struggling to pay myself or raise my rates. So I love doing those groups. They're very fulfilling for me. And the light bulbs, of multiple people at once is pretty enticing too.
I love that you said the light bulbs, right? And for me, it's like it's the empowerment that you're doing with them. It's a possibility because they had no template of how to, and you are providing a template. Like this is one way. Let's go here and let's what else comes up for you as you are approaching this in a different way. So for me, it's like, thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for keep speaking. I keep learning from you, and I'm very aware that I'm very privilege because I have access to you. But for me, it's like, how can I make sure that everyone knows about you? Every field,
Thank
not
you.
just EMDR and play therapy, and not just Colorado, because in Colorado we're spoiled because we have you here. But like, what are the other fields in mental health that they need to know about?
Thank you. I appreciate that. As we said, we could nerd out about this all day. It's like such an interesting topic that people aren't talking about. And now here we are. So thank you for having me to talk about it. I'm glad we could crack that open for people.
That's right. We crack it open.
I mean, that is really the purpose of our podcast. Liliana and I continue to have, we would have conversations in dark corners because we felt like, oh, nobody else is talking about this. This is taboo. We can't talk about this. And finally, she was like, we're going to talk about this and we're going to put it out so that other people can feel like we can talk about this. We're not alone. My takeaway is, Khara, you are single-handedly preventing burnout in our career field. And thank you. Thank you. Because there's not enough of us as it is to go around. And watching clinicians just kind of flame and burn out because they have these money issues, they have all these fears. Yeah, so thank you. This is amazing. This is changing my own practice. You'll be getting lots of emails and phone calls from us. Because yeah, at least in my circle, there's no one quite like you doing what you're doing.
Happy to help whoever's ready. Let's do it.
We're gonna end up with that. Like, let's do it. I was gonna say the date, but the podcast will not come on this date. But let's do it, people.
It's
So,
not that scary. I promise I'm just like this when you meet me in a group or one-on-one. Like, I mean, that's my job as a financial therapist, is to come at it with abundant compassion and zero judgment. That's what my mentor taught me. Like, this is a shame-filled experience, and people are scared to come into it. But once they meet me and see that I'm goofy and I'm human and I've been through it, and I've done my own work, and I've been through burnout, you're absolutely right, Maria. I really want people to not be burnt out. It's like the most awful experience in our field. I do not recommend.
0
not
out of
fun.
10 stars.
Yeah, zero
So new
stars.
therapists and seasoned therapists. Seasoned therapists know what we're talking about. New therapists, like, it's not fun.
Yeah, like, we don't want you to go there if we can help it, which is why I love that this youngest generation is asking these questions. That's where I feel privileged to be a professor, because they're like asking things that I was like, man, if I had asked that, my trajectory would have looked really different. But I'm so grateful that I've a lived experience to share with them, right? I can tell them things because I lived it. I can give them ideas because I lived it. So that is a gift too.
Thank you. Well, folks, I hope you enjoy. Like, Maria and I were having, because, like, again, you cannot see us, but we're like laughing. We're like, minds are just going different ways. So please, again, I will add Kara's information. Please reach out to her. There's so many. Follow her on social media. She also drops a lot of like nuggets. And so it's really, really helpful. And then she also has a YouTube video channel. So there's a lot of videos there. So please reach out, and anything that you need, again, reach out to us and let us know how can we support you. In the meantime, thank you, Kara. You have no idea. We're gonna be watching Disney movies this weekend in a different way.
Disney movies this weekend. Yep. Fair enough. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Until next
Thank
time.
you. Bye.